Hello, everyone. Eric Morningstar here, and I just wanted to talk about how recently I had the honor and pleasure of sitting down with Mr. Rylo Kinn, author of The Dragon's Flute. And over Zoom, we were able to have a wonderful conversation about his work, and I wanted to be able to share that with you so that more people can really get to know him and his work. I can't recommend it more. Immediately go out and buy yourself a copy. I will make a note that we were having this conversation over Zoom, and I was much more focused on speaking with Mr. Kinn and did not separate the screen the way that I normally would right down the middle. Thankfully, it's not about my stupid face. It's about the interview itself. So I will appear at the top, and Mr. Kim will be at the bottom. But anyway, enough about that. Enjoy the interview, and please read such a great dark fantasy book.
All right, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Mr. Rylo Kinn, I am so pleased to be able to speak with you, sir.
Oh, this is great. I'm glad to be here, man. Thanks.
It is absolutely fantastic. Have my copy here of your excellent fantasy novel, The Dragon's Flute. My goodness, it was, I was just so impressed. Um, so I'm just going to jump right into this, if you don't mind. How long did you have this percolating upstairs? I mean, who are your influences in terms of fantasy fiction? Although I do know somewhat of that now, just because I had the chance to read some of your posts. But I mean, did you always imagine it being a series?
Yeah, right from the get-go, I knew I wanted a series. At first, I was thinking six-book series, and then I turned it down to five because I just couldn't picture the six coming in without dragging the story too far.
Okay.
And this has been the evolution has gone for over a period of decades. I
Okay.
Where it starts, geez, buddy, I at 13 years old, I was one of those kids that, I had the imagine. I was the quiet kid. There was more going on upstairs than there was people noticed. I just the shy guy and the imagination. And I mean, at 13 years old, I remember this. That would be 1986, by the way. He-Man coming out and watching the sorceress and thinking this is the greatest character in the universe. Like she was just the best. So as a kid, I recreated a version of her and a couple other characters that would inevitably become Nightshade, Melita Dracus, Civita Cosmos, of course, and Kalar. And
Okay.
so, but they weren't named that. They were just these little fantasies in my head. As I became turned 16, 3 years later, I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons, and
Mm-hmm.
from there, I created the character Nightshade, Sir Nightshade, Knight. So I mean, all these characters and these ideas were forming far before I ever knew I was ever going to do anything from them. They were just things that you do, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess by age 28, I sat down with a friend and I said, you know what, I'm going to write a story. I got all these ideas and I just want to put it together. And he looked at me kind of giggly and said, really? Well, how would it start? And I'm right in front of the computer going, oh my God. I guess. And then I just wrote what would be in today's book today is the first few pages. And from there, at 28, I said, from there, it just was a hobby, right?
Sure, sure.
It was nothing until I guess there was time where there's 5 years I took off from it. It was just something I has dabbled in and stuff. But I guess in 2018, I went through a divorce that was quite a lot of lawyers. There was a lot of battle and conflict. It was a bad time.
It's never good, right?
And I had a friend named Leanne, Brian and Leanne, the characters in the book. She said, start reading part of it and say, you know what? Why don't you just finish it? So from 2018 to 21, because when I read it, it was just garbage. What I had was just plot holes. It just hit walls. It was just awful, right? And
Right,
so I
right.
spent those 3 years in the divorce, and I developed what we read today. Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
So it was a journey.
but so excellent because I don't know, there's something about, the more authors that I'm speaking to and whatnot, we've all kind of held on to these ideas, and we're, just now for some reason we're able to get to them and work through them. So it's a really common story, but it's really, I don't know. I think it's partially because of our digital age, right? We're able to achieve these goals before, it's something that you just could only dream about, right? But now, part of the development of the story that you were talking about, especially over a long period of time, I think might like lend itself because I know, the world of Draconia has this, these similar elements of the earth creatures, right? We've got pegasi, we've got unicorns and minotaurs. I love the minotaur, by the way.
Yeah.
And, in that discussion, now, did you always kind of imagine, using our universe as kind of maybe like a bridge, or was it something that you decided on later?
When I first started, Draconia was just a whole planet, a whole universe in itself. And as the story developed, I I couldn't come up with a really good idea of why they would be there. All these
Right.
mythical creatures. And so I was reading a lot back then. This is like I said 20 years ago about the parallel dimensions and stuff like that. And so I started adding that to it and then having the timelines cross. And then as you read the book, it's explained thoroughly how these creatures just appeared, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, it was a process too.
But I think that some people, I think, can go too far with it. I mean, I remember sitting down reading it was supposed to be sort of like a fantasy Victorian work, and then 100 pages in, a cell phone drops in, and I about threw the book across the room. But part of creating really good fantasy, I think, is getting as close to our world that we can without pushing it too far, because readers need a little bit of something to latch onto, and I
Oh,
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's useful in that way. I really do, and I think you made it work. So points to you for that. I've yeah, it can go either way for me. But also, I mean, I have to ask you about this. Something else I think really helps readers connect with the work. Uh, your use of humor, man, is really, really good. Like I said, partially I read that you're a Douglas Adams fan, so that I was like, okay, okay. But also, I mean, there are elements in the Dragon's Flute that I just really thought were like Terry Pratchett esque as well. I don't know if you're a fan, but oh,
That's awesome. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. It felt very much like a Terry Pratchett style humor, and that's about one of the biggest compliments that I can give somebody because it's it. I mean, if you're not laughing your ass off at Kudos Nexus, and I'll just refer to it as the scene with the cowbell. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's out
perfect.
there.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Um, but in almost a way, which leads me to ask you about the characters of Crete, Ceres, and Cabaldemonus. You know, do you see them as sort of traditional villains? Because sometimes it's hard. They're so humorous.
Well, they are victims of circumstance.
Okay.
Their minds have been corrupted, so they're slowly going insane, which is how I bring out the humor in it in the natural born killers sort of way.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
I don't see them as bad guys because it's
Okay.
hard to,
Yeah.
and but their violence that they do. If you were standing next to them, I don't think you'd see them as a good guy. But I wanted to get the humor in there in a twisted way, showing that they were going insane. So
Yeah.
not only keeping the reader involved and laughing and then twisted and stuff like that, it just got the depth to the story. I didn't want your average bad guys. I wanted something different.
Uh, except and the humor and the slowly going insane part is it makes them stand out in terms
Yeah,
of traditional villains. Villains can, well, I mean, they're just that. They become stock characters, right? and
yeah, you
it's too hard. Now, writing a character, though, on the other end, with Hiram Dracus, to me, like, it's almost a requirement to have a character that fills this mentor role, somebody who is in charge and who is established and paving the way for the younger characters, right? So,
absolutely.
how did you approach writing? I think those characters are extremely difficult to write and write well. So, how did you approach that?
I, growing up, uh, knew of a couple of guys like that. They didn't mean to be that. It was their natural way, and they were my elders. And I combined their what they said to me, taught to me, helped me into uh, into one character, Dracus. And I stumbled along the way with him because I needed a little more depth. I needed something to make this character the way he is. Like he's not your confident master Yoda or anything like that. He's jaded. He's life has really torn him in half,
Yeah,
but he kept it together because he knew he had to for the rest of everybody, the young lords and stuff, as the mentor. So I needed to know, well, what could I have done that would make him that way? And I was at a point in my life where I knew a friend who lost his wife and during pregnancy and birth. And it just shocked us all. It was, I mean, the most beautiful moment in your life should be not ending that way, right? And
no, no, no.
so in memorial and help, I infused that into Lord Dracus, and it turned into a real lifelike character that is uncommon yet believable.
Yeah, and just an absolute pleasure to read between his, like you said, his having dealt with hardship, and yet at the same time, he's somewhat optimistic, right, about this young cohort where everybody else seems to have a certain amount of pessimism, I think, towards the whole
Mhm.
situation. So he's,
Yeah.
facing so much. Absolute pleasure to read. Um, which does lend itself to the question of how did you, I mean, as a male author, it's just hard sometimes. I invite the criticism of the challenges of writing a female character. But, Savita, Milita, I mean, you have a lot of good female characters. So, did you have
Thank you.
challenges? Did you wonder if, you might get some backlash for your approach to female characters?
I didn't worry too much about that. Like I said, I put a lot of love and soul into every character, and they're based on true people,
Okay.
blended, couple different people blended together with storylines blended together to create them. I I've been told by a lot of women that I write women characters better than women do. And I don't, I want to compliment that, but at the same token, I still have to start flexing my muscles around saying I'm still masculine, right? But it is a huge compliment. And I find that today's world, the world seems to be wanting to replace male characters with female in order to put some sort of equal balance, right?
Yeah.
And I find in that process, it just doesn't work. The depth to the character is just not there. I
Right.
feel that it's just an easy fix to help this, and it's upsetting to me. So I put everything I had into these female characters, and I'm hoping that this is show people that they can be new heroes out there that
Hmm.
start with women, right?
Right. Right.
Their own personalities and stuff, and their own struggles as well, right?
Yes.
You can't have them perfect. I mean, Savita Cosmos, she's probably the most wonderful character I ever wrote. I have more respect for that character than I do most normal live humans. And
Right.
she's super interesting character. The process of her took decades to perfect. I uh, I remember when I was just started writing Draconia at 28. I was in on a bus. I think I was 29 at the time, and this girl entered this bus,
Hmm.
and everybody in the bus lit up. She had that energy. You know those people that enter a room and everybody's happy. She's got the energy. She's got the vibe. And this girl sat beside me and we chatted the whole time. And after the bus ride, I was just thrilled. I felt energized, like this person totally recharged me. And as she left, she turned around and she shook my hand and said, "Well, see you later." And I said, "Well, my name's, well, geez, you know." And she she interrupts or whatnot, and she says, "Oh, my name is Savita."
Oh,
And it's an
okay.
East Indian. And I just fell in love with the name, the power of this one individual who lit up everybody on the bus. And after she left, the bus took off, and I stared up at the sky. It was a beautiful starlit night, and I thought, Savita Cosmos. And
Wow.
then it went
That's
from
nice.
there, right? So yeah, these characters are based on real people that inspired me over the years, and that's what gives them the depth.
That's right. I remember you saying Milita was based on a relative, your niece,
Sorry,
maybe?
which one?
Milita.
Melita?
Melita. Oh, sorry.
Melita's Yeah, that's okay. No, Melita's based on a few people. She was a girl I knew that, well, she was an atheist.
Sure.
Um, she wanted to be an atheist so bad because she just hated the religions of the world, and that was her escape. And there was a lot of anger, and backing that anger up, there was a lot of death in her, unnecessary death in her family that got her hating God and what possibility of God they might be out there.
Right.
I'm not judging any religion or anything, whatever you believe, spirituality wise. Um,
Oh, are you there?
she's
Oh, sorry.
young,
Okay.
unlike Sita. Yeah, she's young and she has a lot of time to develop her character along the ways, right? So she's gonna start off pretty angry.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite character, really. I love the energy. Um, I love that she's a badass in attitude and in ability. You know,
She's powerful.
right, right. And I love
Yeah.
how, I was like, where is this gonna go between her and Knight? Because I'm like, okay, okay. And I'm like, I'm thinking Mr. Shade's got to catch up a little bit.
Yeah, this is debatable.
You
I'm not
know
saying
that
anything.
that's one of the joys, you know, of just being able to enjoy, and getting the opportunity to know how you see your own work, in comparison to how your readers do, right?
Oh, it's a big difference. I love the input everybody gives me. It's such a different and clear and just a fresh set of eyes looking at it. So that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, you know, one of the complicated aspects of your book that I kept feeling like you were trying to, you know, get readers to kind of think about the nature of magic, the idea that, you know, magic comes with a price, right? Game of Thrones, only death may pay for life. You know, I'm looking at characters like, you know, Maloris, or that's how I said it when I was reading it.
Malores Barnett, yeah,
Yes, yes. Another one
that
of
creepy.
my favorites because, you know, I feel like I need to shower when I'm reading a little bit.
He's yeah, he's based on serial killer. What's his name? I infused the serial killer with him. Oh, it'll come to me. I never even thought of that. Dahmer. Yeah,
Okay,
so I
okay.
added Dahmer's attitude into him, into a creepy kind of way.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah,
when
he's a little
when
off.
considering, you know, that character, and it makes you concerned for characters like Savita Cosmos and these, you know, young people. And even though, you know, well, and in the insanity of Demonis and Cirrus, you know, it's like, because, you know, it seems to be this great, you know, existence as a Kamalsh, right? You get all of these, you know, unlimited seemingly powers and, you know, healing property abilities. Uh, and I'm like, you know, do you see it as like a cost model to magic in your world? And do you see that coming back in?
I think of magic like a handgun. In
Okay.
the wrong hands, it's evil. In the right hands, it could be protective.
Okay.
So, like anything, it's all about the person himself. However, I also infuse the shadow demons that corrupt certain minds and amplify who they are, which is really bad. So,
Okay.
giving a handgun to a serial killer like Malors is a bad idea. And he's a wizard.
Right, right, right. On top of it, on top of it. Wow. So, I mean, you've started work already on book two. So,
Oh God, yeah.
oh, you didn't. I'm
I
sorry.
did.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I
sorry.
said, oh God, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just
Sorry.
spent 8 hours on it today.
Did you really? Now, is this something that's been percolating since you were 13, or?
All these novels are pre-written in my head, the skeleton structure. I'm
Okay.
just writing them down now, and as I write them down, they evolve far bigger than I've ever anticipated, and it just gets deeper and deeper. It's at the point where I will write for 8 hours, and when I stop, I feel like I was sleeping for 8 hours. So I'm rested. I get up, I go out for the night, I feel great. So yeah, it's an endurance thing, but
But so
it's
rewarding.
gonna be a fun. Oh God, yeah. I love it.
It uh and I mean, and you're at the stage where, you know, the work is out there, and, you know, giving people like me an enjoyable experience over a course of, you know, days, weeks, or
I'm so glad.
months.
Thank you.
You know, it's the greatest gift. You know, I my conception of God and the universe is, you know, being able to share the gifts that it has bestowed upon certain people. So, I mean, people like you are fulfilling your ultimate, in my mind, purpose, and just bringing magic and happiness to people. I mean, that's what is better.
It is the ultimate goal in the end. I can't explain to you, and people approach me asking if I'm Rylo Kinn, and then asking me questions, and then me going, you know what, let's just go for a coffee. And then we go for a coffee, and the questions for an hour straight are just awesome. I see through other people's eyes. I try to talk to everybody I can that's read the book because it's just amazing what they get out of it. And the joy, the fact that somebody's read my book and is feeling better about it, or can relate to the characters, that helps them get through a day, that helps build their imagination, even as simple as just making them laugh. I It's the greatest reward ever. That's why I do it.
It, yeah. I mean, I'm feeling you. You know, it's something that I have always wanted to do ever since I watched Back to the Future, and the character of George McFly at the end gets to, open up the box and see his first novel published, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that was it. That was just like that is what I want out of life. And of course, it took a long
yeah,
time to get back to it, but because in college, it's writing literature with a capital L. Fantasy tends to be looked down upon in certain circles, where I'm like, okay,
yeah.
unless you're
That's
Tolkien,
what I
right?
thought. Right. I mean, yeah, you can read J.R.R. Tolkien, which I love so much, but a lot of people get bored of all the walking.
Yes.
So I and then all the characters are still male dominant and everything. And it's just part of an era, right? I
Right.
mean, you can't
Right.
knock that. It's what evolved us to this point now.
Mm-hmm.
So I I thought by doing the because I honestly I read more fiction, science fiction. I love space. I love all that stuff. And partially why I won't write about it is just I can't. I
Yeah.
already enjoy it.
Right.
So I took on the dragons, which I love and all that stuff, the fantasy and everything. And I thought by adding strong, dominant woman, female actors alongside dominant male actors, so that it's for everybody. And adding, like you said, the humor and just juggling it up a bit, I thought I got a good story that people that would normally not read fantasy would enjoy. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many elements, because I mean there are these epic qualities. I mean, but the story is refreshing, because you're put right there, at a critical moment. That doesn't have to build. You jump right into it, right?
Great into it.
And you're able to introduce the characters without that, first episode, pilot feel, where you have to
Yeah.
go through and introduce all the characters and whatnot. You're able to get through that in the heart of this, drop you right into the battle zone of what's going on and what's at stake. So, yeah, no, absolutely one of, the best that I've had the opportunity to read
Thank
from
you.
these new great authors that are getting the opportunity to put their books out. But yours really stood out.
Well,
Um,
I truly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
it's not a problem. I do want to know, before I let you go, would there be a piece of unexpected advice to give to this group of young authors that are seeking to get their stuff out?
I published my first book at 49.
Yep.
You can do whatever you want when you want to. Don't feel rushed about age. Don't feel rushed about having to do something. Just do it because you love it. Um, you're not going to make a fortune if you try to make a fortune.
Yeah.
Just have fun.
That's what
That's
it
what writing's
has.
all about.
That's what it has to be about, is the love of craft, and
Yes.
and giving
If you don't,
back.
you're not going to get far.
And giving back. It's, yeah. To give anybody the experiences that I've received reading. Uh, yeah, I mean that. I've achieved something with my life if I've done that.
Awesome. Sorry, I
Uh,
lost you for a sec.
oh, sorry.
Sorry?
No, it just cut up a little bit. I'm sorry that that I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, So I really want to give you this last little bit here. Let people know. I know that you've got a busy month coming up. So if I'm going to share this with people, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. In fact,
Okay.
let's share it together. How's that sound? I'll throw it on mine
That
too.
sounds okay. Excellent. That sounds great. I love it. Yeah. Let people know what's coming up for you.
Well, I've got next Saturday, I'm going to be in the Coquitlam chapters in British Columbia, Canada, from 11 to 1. Then March 20th, I'll be in Victoria chapters, 12 to 3. And then April 21st, Langley chapters, 12 to 3. So I'm going to be every couple of weeks, we'll be in a different chapters bookstore doing a book signing. My book two, I'm hoping to have out Draconia 2 by just before Christmas. It all depends on editors and it's unpredictable, so you can't just say when.
I was
So
gonna
that's what
say
I'm going for.
add 30% is what I've heard. 30% longer than what you expect.
Exactly, exactly. So, but it is coming out. I I'm having a great time, just having fun. So I got a ton of podcasts lined up as well, and I'm really excited to just this is the year of the dragon, and
That's right. That's
I am
right.
the dragon.
All right. Thank you again, Mr. Rylo Kinn, and I will see you on the digital spaces.
Thanks for having me. All right. I
All
really
right.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it too, man. Take it easy.
Cheers.